So here's the way we'll kind of readdress the question based on your particular tastes. If you had like, tell you what Spotify playlists do I need to go look up right now? I bet, is that an easier question for you?
I have no idea. I don't use Spotify.
Well, okay.
I mean,
okay,
I listen to like SoundCloud and stuff.
You do SoundCloud? Okay, well, how does SoundCloud work? I know I have tons of music stuff up there. I never quite got a hold of it.
Click something there. And, yeah, you just hit play. There's a play button and it plays a song.
Well, how does it know what to play?
So you just search in. You just plug in whatever you want. You can search genres. You could search trending. You could search by artist. That's typically where like I listen to a lot of up and coming stuff. But like if I were to say, oh, what playlist did you listen to? SoundCloud stuff. I'd be like, look up Clips X Ahoy. Okay. So or Clips Ahoy, but they have the X in there because they that's very popular to do these days. All the people who watch anime are doing it. So
okay.
So Clips Ahoy, great podcast set. Diplo and Friends, great podcast set. Kap Slap is great. Let's see. I like Riff Raff.
I don't have any problems with Riff Raff.
Yeah, Riff Raff is actually very libertarian leaning. So. Yeah, he literally said in one of his interviews, and they asked if he'd like to play for Trump. He's like, I'm all about business and money. He's like, my taxes are already, way too high. He's like, anybody who says they're going to drop the taxes, I'm all about that. And then he says, but they should be about 0%.
Okay, well there you go.
I'll take that.
So he flipped that in there. Actually, it's kind of interesting, but I track who, in mainstream stuff like comes out with libertarian views or slips it in. Riff Raff's one of them. So is Post Malone.
Post Malone's just in general, I don't think he's as libertarian as people make him out to be. But did you read the Rolling Stone interview they did with him? It was interesting.
And I've listened to some of his other videos and stuff like that. So he has that Texas spirit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean about
that's I think mostly what it is.
Yeah.
It is. So it's about as damn good as you can get for mainstream, like literally mainstream chart topping. I mean, pretty impressive that someone even has those views and is up there. So to me, I'm just impressed by that. And actually, another funny thing, he's not a musical artist, but the movie The Room.
Yeah.
So Tommy Wiseau, and then they did a remix of that movie, telling the story that he actually said in a presentation to college students. They asked him, like, if you had one superpower, what could it be? And he's normally very jokey, but he got serious for half a second. He said, well, I wish my superpower would be to, end all taxation, no taxes. So it's sometimes you got to listen to some of these artists and people, like when they do their presentations or like, do sidebar conversations, because they slip in their views when you're not expecting it. You know what I mean? Because they can't like just outright say it. So they have to kind of like slip it in, with some interview about something else. So
well, and
always got to keep.
Allow me to throw this out there. So if that's something that you actually do, keep me in the loop on that kind of stuff, because I'm always I have a little project I'm working on, because there is no repository for straight up like libertarian music, and there's a lot of music that gets called libertarian that I would not say is libertarian. In general, right. I mean, I know that there's little libertarian messages sometimes in music. And usually it's just anti-war stuff, because musicians have a tendency to be lefties, and so sometimes they'll hit on the anti-war thing.
Right. Or anti-authoritarian, I find to be the most common trope. It's just general anti-authoritarian.
Well, and they don't really understand what that actually means either.
No, of course not.
But we always joke about the ANCOM versus ANCAP debate with punk rockers, and I don't understand how any punk rocker could ever vote Democratic. Well, punk rock's its own like weird like origin story, because that came out of a bunch of
basically upper middle class kids rebelling against the norms of their parents, in like the late 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
So it's like these kids who came from affluent homes, but they're like they didn't feel like they fit in, so they like rebelled, but they had their mommy and daddy's money to rebel.
Are you talking second gen punk there?
If you want to call it that, yeah, but specifically the punk that was most popular within, leading up in the 90s, late 80s to probably mid 90s.
Okay, because I think I was even taking it back to like the Sex Pistols and stuff in the 70s and that whole.
Yeah.
And that was, I won't say, it wasn't completely different, but there was actually more of a. I mean, I guess I'd say that, but even in the 80s punk with like the Henry Rollins scene, I mean, there were definitely right wing kind of guys in there that were had a different. Put it this way, I don't bother going to the chat rooms on Reddit over this because it's just so ridiculous so fast and everyone's an asshole. There is no discussion on it. But long story short, one of the things I've been trying to work on is to make some sort of repository for libertarian music, and would probably slant it more towards the ANCAP variety or the voluntarist side of things, because they really get shortchanged in this department. When you ask people, well, what's some good music from that perspective, and then all you can say is Eric July.
There's more than that.
No, there is, and even I mean, like, I know there's a really good instrumental band. I think is it called Delta Sleep? Out of no, not Delta Sleep. Some band. Like I follow them on Bandcamp because that's where I generally look up new music. But they're out of Texas. I think they're an instrumental progressive rock band. We just had a musician on yesterday's. We recorded. Who released a kind of like an upbeat folk album, almost like a little reggae. And he, I know him through the Tom Woods group, so there's a lot of there's other stuff out there. It's just because it's so sporadic and you come across it so infrequently that it's sometimes difficult to remember all the names of the stuff.
Yeah, I know most of them. So
he's like, I'm friends with all those guys. All of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, and you've been around a while. I got the impression.
Yeah, I've been around a while.
Okay.
A long while.
Because I mean, I think I've only probably gotten active within the past year and a half.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I would say I've been a libertarian my whole life and just didn't know that it was a thing.
Gotcha.
And then I discovered it and ran down the hallway and I was like, oh my God, there's these people that think the way I've been thinking my whole fucking life. And the only way you
That's great.
And the only way you have a connection with them is through the internet.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I always joke because I'm a terrible libertarian. I don't generally read books on this stuff. I mean, I have read some, but I always just explain it's like, well, I've never heard anything that didn't just innately make sense to me. So it's like, well, when it stops making sense, that's when I'll start reading, and it just hasn't stopped making sense.
Well, you don't need books. You can have discussions with people and philosophical discussions without ever actually cracking open a book and come to understand things.
Well, no, and it's exactly it. Like if I could talk to somebody who's read Rothbard, I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense.
Right.
I get it. Do I need to waste 30 hours? What is it? How long is Human Action or not Human Action? Man Economy in States, like an 86-hour audiobook.
Really long audiobook.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally there's treatises of his work. I mean, it's huge. And they're coming out with I forgot whether it's a 5th or 6th volume of it. So there's so much you could read, but in terms of finding the basic ethics and philosophy, which really just pervades everything else, you can have conversations with people and work through those things
What's a conversation, man? I thought we were just supposed to yell at people and say, if you don't believe exactly what I believe, go to hell.
You're a statist.
Oh. Statist. Well, I mean, I libertarians or statists, I mean, they all tend to approach that thing the same way. That's why I thought it was more fun to make a podcast talking to libertarians about music. Because it's, while things get contentious, it's not in anybody's wheelhouse to end a conversation.
Music can get more contentious than libertarian stuff even.
Really? I mean, I'm a pretty.
I see lots of people get triggered over music.
I'm a pretty snobby musician, and I've never just get the hell out of my house. How dare you?
I'm sure you could probably generate in your mind some particular taste or band that if someone said like this is the best ever, you'd say get out of here right now.
Oh no, I will accept all terrible taste. I'm gonna berate the hell out of you when it happens. I mean, maybe it's because I'm one of those.
You just want to painfully socially ostracize them. That's all.
Yes, I thought that was okay. That was the point.
The most brutal social ostracization possible.
It's just breaking them down mentally over time,
Break them into tears on their knees, crying when they're done.
I was complaining today because in a musicians group online, somebody asked for really good cover songs.
Yeah.
And more than one person posted 9 Inch Nails' Hurt covered by Johnny Cash.
Uh-huh.
Which to me is just an indictment. And this is a group for musicians that they picked one of the most overplayed pop songs of the past 20 years. It's like that's as a musician, that's what you think of as a great cover song. How you not listen to music? Not that it's bad, but it's just so mainstream. It's like you literally have all these bands with giant catalogs and all of history, and you pick that song. That's the one that really speaks to you.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is to know.
To me, it just screams basic bitch. Y'all's basic
See,
is
there it is.
fuck.
It's coming out.
Yeah, but I would never.
Out. The anger's coming out. It's coming. It's boiling over.
But I would never.
Daddy,
But I would never kick them out of my house for that. I can't yell at them if they're not in my house. I don't have to get back on the internet. I don't want to do that either. All right. Anything you're thinking of, Liz? This has been a fun conversation.
Oh no,
it's not the conversation I envisioned having, for the record.
I was just gonna ask, if there's anything, any links we should be throwing out there, any projects you're working on, that kind of thing.
Are you like Daniel, where you've got 30,000 links?
Ooh, Daniel has a couple more than me, I think.
Okay.
But I got a lot. But I'm not gonna do it all. Rather, just to stay in line with the topics here, I would just say if you haven't already, SoundCloud North Main Sandy Freak, because if you've ever wanted to hear a sexual adventure dealing with SpongeBob and Sandy Cheeks, that is literally your song right there. So
I don't even know how to react to that.
I know how to react. You say thank you, because I've always wondered.
That's amazing.
I can tell you for a fact, I know what stuff's going to be coming up and now because, I work with young people and I hear what they're listening to. I hear the remixes before they come out. So like all the new stuff that's going to be like really come out in the future, you're going to see is music that changes the tempo like mid song. Like it's almost like two different songs in one. And it's also going to incorporate a lot of like childish cartoon stuff coming up. So you're going to see a lot more anime references and like Dragon Ball Z references and SpongeBob references, all that kind of stuff.
I'm okay with that.
Basically, you're going to see that kind of seep into to upcoming music for sure.
Interesting. Man, I feel old as fuck.
Yeah.
There you go.
Interesting. All right. Well, hey, man, we won't take up too much of your time. That was a lot of fun. Like I said, not the conversation I planned on having, but
he's like, I have to find.
Yeah,
out
I'm gonna
about
be
all
honest.
this music now.
I'm just cutting into this so that I could go get on SoundCloud and look stuff up. That's all it is.
Right.
Seriously, like
it's completely
like
selfish.
Billy Marchiafava. You can look up his greatest hits like Cyber Thought and Real MILF Hours. Those are, again, great songs.
Okay, I got to point something out here that is also fascinating to me about this whole thing is that literally not one of the artists you've said could you in any way just tell someone to go out and listen to. You would have to spell every single thing that you've told me to look up. There's no way I could find it. If I wasn't literally sitting with a notepad writing all this down, there's no way in hell I would remember any of it.
Right.
I hope you were writing really good, Liz.
I got most of it.
I mean, is that part of like the online culture, you think? Because everybody's on their phones, it's just always clicks. You don't need to really remember the artist. You just kind of see the tag burned into it.
It's, you just go on SoundCloud, you listen to one thing, and the next thing you know, you're listening to like some story about, SpongeBob, like getting naked and like showing his, dick to a bunch of kids or something, like that's literally what happens. It's like the internet. You go down like some weird rabbit hole, and before you know it, you're like, what the hell am I on right now? That's what happens on SoundCloud.
So,
like one thing leads to another thing. You're just listening, and all of a sudden you're like, what is this?
So what do you do that you are around kids fairly often?
Oh, so previously I was a teacher and also a juvenile defense lawyer, and I also own a educational consulting company. So
what's
done a lot of stuff.
What's an educational consulting company? I'm curious about that. We're homeschoolers, so I'm always interested in things like
so helping people, whatever it is, standardized test prep, college applications, tutoring, other types of things, educational mentorship.
So kind of like what Brett Venat used to do.
What? Who not used to do?
Brett Venat. School sucks.
Oh, right. Sorry, I could never pronounce his last name. I was like, what is that name? Is that his last name? I have no idea. It looks like Vegnoid, whatever. I don't know. But yes, school sucks stuff. Yes, so I do a lot of stuff related to that as well. So you probably see my content related to that. Lots of memes and commentary videos here and there. So,
I know the animation or know the art style. You're pretty easy to pick out in that regard.
I drop little seeds here and there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right. Well, hey man, it's been fun. If you
it has been fun.
If you come across a philosopher and she wants to have a conversation about music, let her know. We're on the lookout. I need to get more ethnics and women in here.
Just lay it out there, why don't you?
I do. I lay it out there.
Did you just assume my gender and my ethnicity? I'm shocked.
I didn't assume anything.
Shocked.
I thought you were like a kind of like a he, she, like Puerto Rican, right?
I'm a demi-pan sexual royal man-child.
I got pigeonholed the other day, and I'm like, you're wrong about most of this. So like, I'm not angry because it's not how I am, but it was like hard lefties that I was out leftying, and their response was to go right, I guess. And just, you cis-het white male. I'm like, bitch, you don't fucking know me. Most of that didn't apply.
Yeah. It's when they purity spiral out of control, it's just hilarious. So.
It was an interesting conversation. I'll say that.
Right.
Yep.
So, all right, boss. Well, hey, man, thanks for the conversation. It was a lot of fun.
Of course, my pleasure. It was lovely to meet you and your wife.
Thanks.
You have a good day, man. Peace.
All right. Take care.
Climb to your role and work till your heart can